Only 5? There's gotta be a million reasons to throw Bush and Darth Cheney behind bars. In the last few weeks on Off the Grid, we've uncovered 9/11, traced how it led the U.S. into Iraq, and exposed how it keeps us at perennial war. Today, I want to lay it all out there with this: the top 5 reasons to prosecute George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Let's go to my vigilant producer, Alex Logan, with our hit list. But first, Alex, before I go to you, I got to tell you, this is all going to be futile, because the problem lies even deeper than Cheney and Bush. The problem is this: no matter what we expose, the United States of America will not admit anything. When you hear about all this buildup of fighting ISIS now, is it ever brought up officially? Well, gee, there wouldn't be ISIS if we hadn't invaded Iraq. I'll bet you today, if Saddam Hussein were alive, he would be our ally against ISIS. I just wanted to get that off my chest so the American people out there listen to this and realize it's time for us to take some responsibility. It's time for us to look in the mirror, and it can't all be roses and glory. We have leaders who have screwed up, and we're in trouble today because of it. And here's 5 reasons. Go ahead, Alex.
Reason number 1 to prosecute Bush and Cheney: the gloves come off finding. Salon journalist Marcy Wheeler deemed this September 17, 2001 document that President Bush issued to inform Congress of a CIA operation the gloves come off finding after the phrase then CIA Counterterrorism Center Director Cofer Black used to describe the activities included in it. According to Bob Woodward's Bush at War, this finding authorized, among other things, heavily subsidizing key intelligence services like Egypt and Jordan, so they would do our bidding, working with Libya and Syria, countries we even then considered pariahs, running paramilitary squads in 80 countries, and using Predator drones to take out top al-Qaeda figures. Oh, and torture. As Marcy Wheeler put it best, the Bush administration told Congress about the gloves come off finding. They simply didn't tell Congress that the detention mentioned in the finding meant torture until over 2 years after the program started.
So initially, they just told Congress the gloves are coming off, we're going to war, but they didn't say all the violations of war that we would be doing when we went to war, like the use of drones, and of course, as you mentioned, torture. And now that the United States tortures people, how can we possibly look at anybody else in the world and feel good about ourselves that we're above what they do? Go ahead, Alex.
Well, again, we find that theme of altering the dictionary in the Bush-Cheney administration. Since when did detention mean torture?
Yeah, I mean, when you capture somebody, you're not supposed to torture them, but then again, they made up a new rule. They didn't call these people military, so they didn't fall under military justice. They don't call them civilians, they call them enemy combatants. And therefore, I guess we can do anything we want to them simply because we gave them a new name. That's interesting how that's one of our status quo things, to give something a new name and then the rules don't apply.
Now, reason number 2 to prosecute Bush and Cheney: the authorization of military force against terrorists. Signed the day after the gloves come off finding, Public Law number 107-40 gave President Bush unprecedented power to fight terrorism all over the world by almost any means necessary. The law states, the president is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001.
What he determines? Isn't there a check and a balance here? What this is doing is simply giving him carte blanche to wage war anywhere he wants to, regardless of the country. How do we know someone's a terrorist? How do we know? Just because he says so? Or he's told so? You can't just leave it up to one individual to make all the calls.
And that's what we're getting into reason number 3 we should prosecute Bush and Cheney: the authorization for use of military force to the Iraq War Resolution. The laundry list of allegations against Iraq that led to this second authorization were based on 2 cornerstones, and I quote, members of al-Qaeda, an organization bearing responsibility for attacks on the United States, its citizens, and interest, including the attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, are known to be in Iraq. Governor, we had U.S. troops in Iraq for 11 years. How many al-Qaeda members responsible for 9/11 were discovered there?
0. None. bogus bullshit, because there were no ties to 9/11 whatsoever with Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Even the 9/11 report, their own report confirmed that. What more would you need? So that was a big bogus lie to force us or the people to get behind an invasion of Iraq, which I deem a completely illegal war. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, the second cornerstone was, and again I quote the authorization directly, U.S. intelligence agencies and Iraqi defectors led to the discovery that Iraq had large stockpiles of chemical weapons and a large-scale biological weapons program.
That was Curveball.
That was Curveball.
That was our buddy Curveball. He realized early on that the more bogus stuff he fed, the better deal he got. George Bush did not care. He just needed something to sell the American people on. And let's not forget Dick Cheney, the real president. Their main job is to feed the industrial war machine, keep the money flowing to it, and keep us at perennial war. They knew what was going to happen over there. They're not that stupid. And now look at the results of what we've got.
Reason 4 to prosecute Bush and Cheney: uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001, or by its shorthand name, the USA Patriot Act. The Patriot Act allows the FBI to obtain secret court orders for business records and other, quote, tangible things, so long as the FBI says that records are sought for an authorized investigation to protect against international terrorism or clandestine intelligence activities. And isn't that what the FBI is doing here, a clandestine intelligence activity?
Absolutely, and I've renamed the Patriot Act. To me, isn't the Patriot Act, it's the act of treason. Because the Patriot Act is treason to the Constitution and Bill of Rights, the very fabric of our nation, the most important documents that run this country, and they've disarmed them and made them useless. All you people out there realize this: your government thinks you're a potential terrorist. That's why they have the Patriot Act, to keep an eye on you.
And of course, this led to the bulk collection of telephone metadata, warrantless wiretapping, and everything else the NSA had been secretly doing until Edward Snowden leaked his information to the press last year. These other documents and authorizations indirectly declared war on Afghanistan, Iraq, and terrorism, but doesn't it seem that the Patriot Act declared war on the citizens of the U.S.?
Yes, I think so. I think it was masked in that it was done to take away our freedoms, lock us down, scare us, and give the government unlimited power with our blessing. Because you got all these people out there shaking in their boots saying, oh, protect me, keep me safe. The only way government can keep you safe is to take your freedom away from you. If they take your freedom, there's nothing left. Yeah, you might be safe, but you'll be safe under lock and key. Is that the way you really want to live? I don't. Get rid of the Patriot Act. Jesse Ventura would do that if he became president immediately.
Our fifth and final top reason for prosecuting Bush and Cheney: the economic collapse. As was reported in Time, Bush's tax cuts and spending increases and clear disdain for the pay-as-you-go approach that had brought deficits down in the 1990s brought a return to permanent deficits. Then the BBC pointed out, on Bush's watch, the U.S. authorities did little to prevent the sale of millions of mortgages to people who could never afford them. They failed to police the market in mortgage-backed securities, which has now collapsed with such devastating consequences. And lastly, when all is said and done, Reuters estimates that the Iraq and Afghanistan wars could cost more than $6 trillion when you factor in interest and benefits owed to veterans.
Wait a minute, let me interject right here. And what have we gotten out of this? $6 trillion, 2 wars, and are we better off today than we were 20 years ago? I don't think so. Go ahead, Alex.
Obama catches much of the flack for the economic crisis the past few years, but don't Bush and Cheney deserve this blame?
Absolutely they do. You know, that's another thing I'll criticize the American people on, their attention span and their memory. They have an attention span and a memory of about 12 months tops. They don't bother in this country to read history. That's why the old cliche works. They're doomed to repeat it because they won't study it. These 5 reasons constitute only a small portion of the crimes and misdemeanors of the Bush and Cheney administration. So if you, my vigilant viewers, find more, send them to me at the websites below. And as always, stay vigilant, or else the U.S. will elect another Bush if you're not.